We definitely know that the first three seasons under Scott Frost will not cut it in Lincoln. We talk Nebraska football. We got Zach Reeder on the line from Fifth Quarter College Football. Zach, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Mark?
I'm good. Let's talk some offense. Let's, of course, we can start with Adrian Martinez, and I guess more explosive plays, less turnovers. We can start there.
Yeah, and from the looks of it so far in camp, I mean, you've had a lot of coaches and teammates who have came out and said that he's looked as good as he ever has. So that's a good start. I know that's camp, and there's always that camp talk that says guys look really, really good. But, I mean, it's a good place to start. I think what you're looking for him this year, like you said, you know, the explosive plays are going to come with an athlete as good as Adrian Martinez. But you got to limit the turnovers, and you got to be more consistent. I think that's the biggest thing with Adrian. The inconsistency of the last couple of years has resulted in, you know, Nebraska being that 5-7, 4-8 team because he's not able to make those plays throughout 4 quarters of a football game to get Nebraska wins late in that game. And, you know, as you know, and many Husker fans know, it's been disappointing so far for the offense in the Scott Frost era. And that was the one thing that when Frost came in, people were expecting that to be no problem at all. So, I mean, Adrian's got to be able to be consistent. I think that's the biggest thing heading into this season.
And the reason I mentioned the turnovers and the explosive rate is because they ranked bottom 5 to 10 in the nation in both categories last year. So that's an impossible combination. You could be dominant along the line of scrimmage, but if you're not creating explosive plays and you're turning the ball over, then, you know, that's a recipe for disaster, obviously. So, in regards to the backup quarterback situation, is that Logan Smothers, period? Is he the guy?
Yeah, from the sound of it, I think Logan Smothers is going to be that guy. He's going to have the most experience, and I think he's probably going to be more talented than some of the other guys that have been around the program longer. And then there's some young guys in there, but I think Logan Smothers is going to be the guy as a backup guy. And, you know, you hate to sit here and talk about the backup because you hope that nothing's ever going to happen to the starter, but Adrian's been injured in his career, and it definitely happens with the guy that's going to run as much as him. So the backup quarterback position is important, and I think Smothers offers, you know, a good dual threat look to the offense in case that Adrian Martinez does get hurt.
Inexperienced at running back for the most part. How do you size up the distribution of the carries? Do you have a pretty good feel for who's the lead guy versus who may just complement him, or if it's going to be running back by committee right out of the gate?
Yeah, I think this is the biggest question mark with the Huskers so far throughout camp, throughout everything you read. When you look at it, Marquise Stepp was supposed to be the guy that transferred out of USC. He's been injured. Everything's kind of pushed back for him. I don't exactly know when he's going to be healthy. I would assume that they're trying to push it, you know, for a couple weeks, and maybe he's healthy then, and then try to get him back into the swing of things. But he hasn't been healthy really all spring. So when you look at who else they got, Gabe Irvin's been a big name who's been really, really good so far. Throughout all the scrimmages, you've been seeing him get a ton of first-team reps. You have other people, guys that have been there, Sevion Morrison, Marvin Scott. You've got Ramir Johnson. If my best guess is that it's going to be a running back by committee, I don't see why it wouldn't be to start off. With so many guys having different talents in the Husker offense, you're going to have to do running back by committee and ride the hot hand. I think that's what a lot of college teams should do to start off, because you never know once you get in season. You talk with a lot of offensive coordinators, sit there and talk about the guy with the hot hand. And I think that's a true thing at the running back position. When you get a guy with the hot hand, it's serious, and you got to stick with that guy. So Gabe Irvin is my best call so far. I mean, Yaquez Yant is a guy that I'm really big on. You know, he's coming to Nebraska. He came in at 245. He's already dropped 20 pounds. He's a powerful guy that can give you those short yardage situations. But so can a guy like Sevion Morrison. So I think it's going to be a ride in the hot hand early, but expect game 1 against Illinois. I think Gabe Irvin's going to be the back on that first drive.
Talking Nebraska football, focusing on the offense, we got Zach Reeder on the line from Fifth Quarter College Football. And, of course, the Huskers get it going earlier than just about everybody in the country with a Week 0 date against Illinois. Big Ten game, conference game, division game right out of the gate. Got to rev up and be ready to notch a win. Offensive line is obviously going to make the running game go based on the experience coming back, based on the performance from last season. How good do you feel about the O-line?
Yeah, I mean, I feel pretty good about the O-line. I think you're going to have a guy like Juergens in the middle who's going to be leading that group. Hopefully the snapping issues aren't an issue this year. That was a big issue for Nebraska in the past couple of years. But Juergens is a really talented guy, a guy who can be playing on Sundays in the future. Then you look at who else they got. You got some talented guys at tackle. Turner Corcoran out of Lawrence, Kansas. I think he's going to be a guy he's young. He played in that Rutgers game at the end of the year, flashed that true ability as that high 4-star. Then you look at guys like Bryce Benhart. He's another high 4-star who could be at that tackle position. I think you got some experience at guard right next to Hymas. So I think it's going to be kind of important to see where Nebraska's line. The biggest thing with me, I think they have the experience, and I think they have the combination of that experience and talent on that offensive line. It's just going to be how well they gel together. I think that's the biggest thing with all offensive lines, because you can have the most talent on that offensive line, but they got to gel together. Because, I mean, if you're not working on the same page as the guy next to you, it's going to fall apart. So, especially in an offense that's so spread out, quick, running so much of that spread offense type of stuff that Scott Frost likes to do, you need that O-line on the same page. And I think Nebraska has the talented offensive line to really push around people. I think you saw it at the end of the year. If the offense isn't making mistakes, I think explosive plays are going to be there because that offensive line grew a ton as the season went on last year.
Yeah, no doubt. More than any other unit on the offense or the defense, special teams, anywhere. The offensive line has to be a cohesive unit, unlike linebackers need to work together, D-line, but nothing close to the offensive line. It's a lot to coordinate there to get the right guys and the right combination together. As we look at the guys that are going to make the big plays on the outside, hopefully for the Huskers, not enough of them the last couple of years, but Austin Allen caught 18 with a touchdown last year. Xavier Betts, people want to see more out of him. Of course, Wan'Dale Robinson's a huge loss. So how do you size up the wide receivers with some guys coming into the program?
Yeah, this is the position, and rightfully so, that I've heard the most about camp time for Nebraska. They have so much talent. I think, you got Fedone gets injured, so he's kind of out. He's where Marquis Steps out right now. That's a really talented individual that you're not going to see come game one for the Huskers. But I think you have Austin Allen. You mentioned him, Travis Vokalek. Those are some big tight ends that I think mix into this offense really good and give you those big, not necessarily big play threats, but just size-wise are going to give you some mismatches on the outside. And Austin Allen played basically as a receiver last year in a lot of those situations. But I think the wide receiver position might be the most fascinating for the Huskers come this season. Xavier Betts, Alante Brown, guys you expect to step up, Oliver Martin, Wyatt Luer. There's plenty of guys that, need to take that next step that flash a little bit of ability, but not much. But I think everybody's looking at the 1-2 for the Huskers right now, and they're like, how good can they be? Samori Toure, the transfer, he's going to be massive for the Huskers. Cam Taylor-Britt listening to his post-practice press conference the other day, and they asked him who the best receiver and best pass catcher on the team is, and he said it's easily Toure. So I think that's going to be a massive thing for the Huskers is how good can Toure be, and can he be that guy you can trust like a Stanley Morgan from a couple years ago, if he can be that true guy that catches you 7-8 passes a game. So we'll see exactly what Toure offers. And then, I know we talked about this plenty, Mark. Where is Omar Manning going to be? Is he going to fit in? He's a big-bodied receiver who there's been talks about him being, he's so talented, he's so good, all this, but he couldn't get on the field last year. Can he get on the field this year? He's been healthy in camp and he's been playing, so I think the chances are good. And from what I've read, he's done pretty well. So it's going to be interesting to see what Omar Manning and Toure can do as the 1-2, because if you have Toure's ability at receiver with Manning's size, and then you add in those tight ends and you add in speedsters like Betts and Martin, the group looks good on paper, but we've been saying that for years now. And what can they produce, for this offense, for the Scott Frost offense to take that next step and truly be that Frost offense that he had at UCF?
Let's not forget about the tight end. You mentioned Fedone. Unfortunately, not going to be able to see him. Maybe he makes it back later in the season. At the time of the initial injury, it was thought, okay, he's out for the season, but you do the math and in the recovery process, these guys get back in 6 or 7 months now. He should be able to make it possibly for the last whatever many games of the season. So hopefully we see him. And recruiting, from a recruiting standpoint, the tight end position has been one of the successes in recent years. Where do we stand at tight end?
Yeah, I mean, Austin Allen, Travis Vokalek are going to be the guys early on. You could have had Fedoni in there. I think that would have been a huge addition. You know, early on in camp, he was looking pretty good, but then that injury is going to set him back a bit. But you got also, there's a ton of depth at that position. I know they like to recruit some in-state guys, you know, guys that have kind of, there's been a couple guys out of Pius X in Omaha. And, you know, you look at a guy like Chris Hickman, a guy who's been in the program for a long time, super athletic guy who transformed from a receiver in this offense now to tight end, you know, standing at about 6'5", 245. That's another guy that you can see take that big step for the Huskers. Tight end position, super excited for that. I think all Husker fans should be. And I don't know if you caught it, Adrian Martinez's interview the other day, they asked him, what do you think about the tight end position? And he just started smirking and he said, yeah, that's all he said. I think that he's really excited about that position. Might be the most excited he is about a position. And I think that can, you know, make the Huskers a really hard team to prepare for, because you got all these spread offenses nowadays who have all this speed around the perimeter. But now if you know, prepare for this spread offense in Nebraska, and now all of a sudden you got to deal with all these 6'5" size guys like Omar Manning, Austin Allen, Travis Vokalek, Chris Hickman. That's hard to prepare for size, because it's something you really can't if the ball is placed right from Adrian Martinez. So that there comes in that consistency of Martinez. And if he can get that consistency down with the size and talent Nebraska has on the outside, it's looking like a really good thing. But I'm super excited for that tight end position.
Please like the video, share the videos out on social media, because if you enjoy the content, others will as well. And of course, subscribe here at the Voice of College Football. Zach, 23 points per game last year. That was 102nd in the nation. It was only an 8-game season, so who knows, had they had more consistency throughout in regards to reps and so forth, but still disappointing, as you mentioned, for the entire Scott Frost era, covering 3 seasons, in terms of him being an offensive guy that showed what he showed at Oregon and at UCF. So do you think this is a top 5 offense in the Big Ten? What do you think are reasonable expectations of the productivity and explosiveness of this offense?
Yeah, I think, you know, looking at expectations, I think, you know, taking that 23 points per game, I think you have to get it north of 28. I think most Husker fans are looking to get into, you know, 30, 31 area. But, you know, I think first step, get it to about 28. I think the defense, you've already talked about the defense. The defense is going to be good. They were good at the back end of last year. They have a ton of talent, a lot of returners. So I think if the defense plays how they did down the stretch of that season, and you're averaging 28 points per game, you should be in good shape as far as putting it up in the Big Ten. I think Husker fans want to see it be a top 5 offense. I think with the talent they have, I don't see why it can't be a top 5 offense in the Big Ten. So I think, you know, shooting for that is probably a good expectation. I think if you are north of 28 points per game, you should be right around that 5 mark in the Big Ten.
All right, Zach, we're only 2 weeks away. We appreciate you stopping down to break down the Husker offense.
Of course. Let's get college football going. I'm bored.
No doubt.